welcoming head coach Brett Larson.
Welcome to the Pride on Ice podcast presented by Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union. Jim Rich here along with Gopher great Pat Micheletti and current assistant Ben Gordon. Ben, welcome to the podcast. We appreciate you stopping by.
Thanks for having me, guys. This is fun. I've seen a lot.
It's great to have you.
I've seen a lot of good stuff on social media. So
Jim said Jim said we should have an Iron Ranger on. I'm like, he says, how about Ben Gordon? I'm like,
the range.
I know. That's why I had to clarify with you that you're really not an Iron Ranger.
Iron Range Conference. So I mean, I guess most would classify us as the Ranger, probably, but we're an Iron Range Conference. But I wouldn't say true through and through Ranger, per se, like you.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah.
Correct.
Good.
You don't have iron ore in your back of your pickup.
I do not.
Not like guys. Yeah.
Not quite.
Drive to the rob.
Not quite.
All right. Just about this summer, a change at the top. You're one of the coaches that gets to stay with the program. What was that transition like? What's Brett's message been to you when he came to you and asked you to stay on?
Not much, to be honest. It was a long first part of the summer, definitely. Getting through it. Being alumni and being on the old staff that was here previously and wanting to be a part of the new staff, it was, to be honest, for me personally, it was long. But not too far after it looked like he was going to get his hands on the job. I was fortunate enough to have a conversation with him, and he got in touch with me, and I've known him for a while, so it seemed like it would be a good fit, and we kind of talked things through, and here we are today. So I'm just really happy that I can still be a part of it.
Well, knowing you for as long as I have, and I just, you bleed maroon and gold. I mean, you do whatever it takes, not only as a player, but as a coach. So, I mean, you must have been thrilled when he retained you and kept the ball rolling.
Well, I mean, first of all, it means a lot coming from you. I don't like to pump your tires too
much.
You don't. But
please
I know that if there's one person that bleeds maroon and gold, it's you.
Yeah,
so that's a compliment coming from you. I appreciate that. Like you said, I don't want to pump your tires too much.
Okay, well, let's not then. Let's go back to your high school days, your youth hockey days. If I'm correct, there's not a lot of guys from International Falls that became Gophers. Dean Blaze comes to mind.
He was the one before you.
I think.
Correct.
I'm not totally sure, but I think he's the one previous.
I was trying to rack my brain. Who else from International Falls came?
Dick Doherty?
That's way,
we're going way back.
I mean, so Dean Blaze and you. But when did you know that you wanted to become a Gopher, or what was your recruitment like, and were you like, wow?
I got some information.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was doing
some digging.
Not only is Dean Blaze the last Gopher from International Falls, your parents bought Dean Blaze's house in International Falls.
They did.
And Dino tried to recruit you to North Dakota.
He did.
He said part of the deal of buying the house is we get your son.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. But the way it worked out is I think Dean was coaching in the Falls.
Yeah.
And got the job at North Dakota, and my dad was working in the San Jose system, I think, at the time, and we were living in Kansas. And the high school job opened up. My dad, I think, wanted to get me back to Minnesota for hockey. I think that probably played into it, and we ended up moving back. And my dad was going to be the high school coach, and so he moved bought Dean's house, which is ironic. I mean, it's right across the street from the rink in the high school, so I didn't have to go anywhere. It's kind of like it's been the coach's house, so it's kind of, So long story short, when it got down to the recruiting part of it, I had to tell Dean that I was not going to be going to North Dakota, and I don't think he was very happy with things. We have a long-standing relationship.
Was that hard for you? I mean, or because it was did it come down to North Dakota, Minnesota?
I mean,
for you?
To be honest, with Dean going there, and he had family still in the Falls, and I grew up with some of his nieces and nephews, and they were in my grade, and I was friends with them, and I mean, it was a pretty green town.
Yeah.
I mean, to say the least, it was I mean, I think when people, from back home realized that I was maybe going to be good enough to play college hockey, I think they probably thought it was a open and shut case. But I was always maroon and gold, back to Midwest Sports Network and, watching, guys like Bonin and Crowley and, it's crazy. I know those guys now and you see them, but like when the first time I met a couple of those guys, like I got starstruck more than I would have like some NHL guys. And I don't know, it was always just for me. It seemed I was always, excited about coming down to the cities. I was always excited about coming down here and playing hockey and expanding it. And then I just, I knew that this was going to be somewhere that I probably wanted to be, and which was probably different than a lot of people where I was from thought the direction it would head. But
all right.
Yeah,
we got some footage from your era back then. The 06-07 were back-to-back WCHA champions, correct?
Yes, that's true. I believe. Yeah, long time ago. Look at this high definition television.
Yes.
That's my first career right there.
Was it really?
Yeah, it took me a year to get it, but I got it. Yeah.
But just that era, what was it like to wear that maroon and gold? You said that it grew from watching on television, and I think that's a big thing of why the Gophers are putting the program back on free TV on Fox 9 when you guys are home. So people are exposed to it. So these young players are exposed to it. But what was it like for you to have that sweater and to have Blake Wheeler and all these other guys being your teammates?
I mean, it was... for me, I got like that year I got to play on a line with Wheeler and Kessel myself.
That's not bad.
Well, yeah, but who's the odd man out there? So I'm consider myself to be pretty lucky and, to be able to get those opportunities. And like you said, I growing up didn't know college hockey would even be a part of my future, but I knew what the Gophers were, and I knew I wanted, if I ever would get the chance to. And it wasn't even really a contest. I remember doing the recruiting process and going through that, and different coaches coming to your house, and I remember my dad grabbed me before and be like, "Don't commit." He's like, because it was, if it was Don, don't commit right away on the spot, because you gotta listen. You gotta listen and hear out what all these other schools are gonna say. And I didn't even care. And I think even Paulie Martin has a great story about that. His mom told him not to, and he did it anyway. Yeah. But so those are kind of the stories as to what it means to you, and what it means to me.
All right. How does that help you now, that experience of wearing that jersey, playing here, winning championships, help you to convince the current player that the University of Minnesota is the right place for them?
It's nothing catastrophic or not catastrophic. It's nothing, earth-shattering. It's nothing groundbreaking that I'm doing. I just try to talk to them honestly, recruits from my experience. I loved my time at the U. It's become my home for my family. My kids are already Gophers, and they're, young. And I try to talk more about the way that it shaped me as a human, and the way that it shaped me as through playing hockey. And I just try to share that and share how important it is, especially as a Minnesota kid, to get the opportunity to do it.
Jim and I have the pleasure of looking at the bench when we're calling the games. And one thing I always notice when you're on the bench, you the head coach who's just kind of, standing there evaluating everything, and another coach at one end. And I see you going up and down the bench, patting guys on the back, getting them fired up. Is that just part of your nature of being just that much into the game? Or what about your coaching style that really, it really brings out something, in the team? You can see that when the guys get that pat on the back and it's their next shift up and they're ready to go.
Well, I think one of the things is I pride myself on having a good relationship with the guys. Yeah. And I think, a lot of them,
you can be hard on them.
I can be hard on them. I can. That's not my nature either. But no. I think when I do, speak up, they listen, and I think, I try to be positive light no matter what's going on. Yeah. And so I try to go up and down. That's just partially me. I can't sit still. It's kind of, you can see I'm up here fidgeting around. It's kind of what I do. It's just kind of how I've always been. So that's part of it. But part of it is, I think it's my way to, maybe have a little impact on the game. Yeah. If I can bring, a guy that's, struggling into a little bit of a positive light, to have more productive shift or a more productive game or back half of the game, like that's that's the little piece that I can bring to the table.
And we were talking earlier, and a big part of your job with this team is recruiting, and you're on the road a lot, and you're battling all the big teams in the country for player X, Y, or Z. And so you get that competitive edge. That doesn't leave, right? Because you want to get that player. How is it interacting with the other recruiters from the other teams, and how do you handle that?
I mean, honestly, I think it's similar to playing.
Yeah.
You got, when you're a player, you got buddies on every team. Once you get to a certain level, you got buddies on every team that you play. And so, but when the puck drops, they're not your buddy. It's kind of that thing. Yeah, I mean, I got buddies. We all do on every staff in the country.
You got to give them a little nudge. You give them a little nudge,
but
right?
I think when it gets down to you're battling for a recruit, that's your game 7 right there. So especially if it's a big kid, I mean, I know they're going to do what they have to do to try to get that kid, and we're going to try to do what we have to do to get that kid as well. And it's kind of, I would say, approach it just like you do when you're a player, and it's competitive.
Yeah.
It's competitive. Nobody's, the good thing about it is that you're all buddies. It kind of, for the most part, keeps it generally, a gentleman's game, yeah, so to speak, yeah.
All right, when you look at the recruiting aspect of things, where you are with this team, how do you go about, and you don't have to go deep dive into specifics, but does the head coach say, I'm looking for this, and you go bird dog and tell them this may fit what we're looking for? Do you have a giant wall chart that has all these players that are this birth date and where they are and what they're doing? Or is it just going out and watching games and then saying, you know what, that kid could fit in maroon and gold very nicely? I
mean, it's honestly a little bit of everything that you said, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, we're very fortunate here in Minnesota. We got all the guys right, a lot of the players that are right here. But I mean, yeah, we do have our list of players that we're looking at. We are going out and watching games. We're kind of touching all the bases, so to speak. And as you can see, over the last few years, things have really changed in the way recruiting goes. Timelines, this seems like the CHL kids are a little bit later, which is going to affect your recruiting timelines. So you're going to have to be a little bit more fluid than you have in the past. And, so I think we have earmarked, for the next years out, what we're going to be looking at or what types of players we're going to maybe be losing or maybe be needing. But as you can see, I mean, our team looks a lot different than it did, last year at this time. And so it's ever changing, and it's going to probably continue. So I think you got to stay a little bit fluid with it all. But yeah, to answer your question, we do have a general idea of what we're going to probably be looking at, trying to project. Yeah.
All right, from your perspective, and let's go back to, when you played in high school and then on to college. And, obviously, the guys are bigger, they're faster, they're stronger.
They're a lot of stuff.
They're the skill level, right? I mean, we see some of the goals that are scored. But how much, in your opinion, has the game changed, or is it really just the same game with, a little bit more skilled players? I mean, more depth.
Yeah, I guess I could probably answer that by saying you almost maybe answered your own question a little bit. Like, it's like the ever-changing skill and speed of the game just keeps climbing and climbing, and you got to stay with it. But at the end of the day, do you have a group of men or young men or boys or even young girls or whatever that's committed to winning? And when, as hockey people, we all know what that means at the end of the day. Yes, if you have the most skill and the most talent, it's a really, really good spot to be sitting. But at the end of the day, it's going to get down to probably putting a puck in behind their D and winning a forecheck and scoring an ugly goal, even for the best teams in the world. That's what it ends up boiling down to. So at the core of it, hockey's still the same, in my opinion. But it's been fun to watch where it's gone. Thank God I didn't have to keep up out there when I was with some of these guys. It's great. Like every year I'm like,
yeah, no.
Not this year. Not there for the comeback this year. But no,
the shootouts, though, right?
I still can go. I can still put a couple home in the shootout.
Yeah.
Thank God. But you know what? That's going down. The goalies are so big too.
They
Now
are.
where am I shooting?
Think about it,
I don't
right?
shoot hard enough to
back
beat 'em.
in the day, we could see the net.
Yeah, no,
right?
there's nothing.
Now there's nothing.
You can't even see your mom up in section 10. Goalies come out at you. They're this big. They're massive.
All right, here's what the coaching staff looks like. Does your role change from what you did for Bob to now what you do for Brett? How have you guys talked about that? And then obviously you keep Paul around, and Paul is now going to be more involved in things. How do you see this group working, and do you see your responsibilities changing moving forward?
You know what? We haven't really fully dove into or played out what that's exactly going to look like. I mean, yeah, I'm going to do a lot of the recruiting. I mean, I'm out. I know the kids. I have a kid coming up, and I get all that. But like, what's been good is, we have a lot of guys now like that are anxious to get in the fold. Paul wants to, get into the recruiting fold. He wants to get out there and learn it, which is impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, he's played in the NHL for how long? He doesn't have to do any of this. Right. But he's, talk about a guy that bleeds it. There's
another guy.
But he's going to have to be involved whether he wants to or not. He's Paul Martin, and his hockey knowledge is off the charts. And any young defenseman would be lucky to work for him. So he's going to have to be involved in recruiting because he's a big piece for us. And, Corey's been great. Lars is super active. It's just, it seems like it's going to be everybody kind of pitching in on all areas.
Like a team, they have to gel. As a staff, do you find that too, where, okay, you guys are really young as a staff coming into this, right?
For sure.
New head coach, Paul takes over a new head job, or
new gig,
full time, I should say.
Yep.
And Corey's new, and so has it taken time, or how has that transition been? I guess is the question.
Listen, it's the best way to answer that is probably it's been great. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a time in January where we probably all want to pull each other's hair out, but that's normal.
Well, that's the nature of the beast, right?
That means you're probably doing stuff right.
Right. Yep.
You know what I mean? But yeah, this summer's been great. We've had a little bit of time now for things to slow down after getting our team set for next year. We all knew each other, obviously.
Yes.
But like to really live with each other and know how each other's. I'm probably not an easy person to live with. I'm quirky. I do my thing. I never sit still. I understand how it works, but I'm learning Lars. Lars likes, what he likes. I'm learning now with Paul, even more invested, kind of how he operates on the day-to-day all day. And so it's like, we're with these guys more than we're with our wives and kids. That's what it boils down to. So it's like, yeah, we're learning that. And yeah, there's going to be ups and downs, but I know we got good people, and I know that we genuinely like each other, and we're a fit. And so I think it's going to be positive moving forward.
Okay.
Right. We got to take a break. We'll come right back. We'll get to Pat's question. We'll get to your questions. And we'll find out how these major junior players are going to be recruited, since I don't think you had a database on them, because back in the day, you played there, don't have to worry about them.
Yeah.
So we will see how they plan on attacking that and more. You're watching the Pride on Ice podcast. Back with more after this.
Affinity Plus presents Real Life Math from real members. Paul says, when they know you by name, you know they care. Life math is complicated. Affinity Plus made his life easier. Learn more at affinityplus.org.
Welcoming head coach Brett Larson.
Welcome back to the Pride on Ice podcast, and this is how you can get your season tickets. They are on sale now at gophersports.com. This season is going to be an amazing season. It's a totally brand new team, new organization, star-studded recruits. And the guy who brought them all here, Ben Gordon, joins us here.
Aren't we the lucky ones?
I cannot take full credit for that, no. Team effort.
All right, before we get into the recruits, talk about the guys that are wearing the letters this year. We had Brodie Ziemer. By the way, you can watch any of the previous episodes. They're on Fox Local. They're on Gopher Hockey's website. They're also on the Fox 9 YouTube page. You can see Brett Larson and the head captain of the team, Brodie Ziemer. Just about that group and how you saw it come together. Was there any surprises in your mind when you saw Brodie, LJ, and John get the nod from the teammates and your staff?
No, I mean, honestly, like I think last year we talked about it, even with Brodie as a sophomore, and I said, if I'm picking a captain last year, I'm picking Brodie. Just me, and Bob was, he might, not ready. It's a tough job, which it is. It's a tough job being captain of the Gophers for sure. But he's ready. I mean, he's a warrior. That's, you can just sum it up.
He wants to win.
He's a warrior, and he's going to show up every day. And Moons is no different. He's more not going to say as much. Z's not a big, huge talker either, but more inclined to talk. Moons is just going to show up and bring it. You know what I mean, as of right now, and he shows up every day. He does things the right way, and he's, the way he lives his life has brought him to, with his teammates.
Okay, and then throw a little love for Johnny, because he's a guy that not a lot of people. I think of the three you selected, to the casual fan, I think they may be surprised that John Whipple was named an assistant.
Well, I'll tell you what, John Whipple last year. And when he ended up not making the World Junior team, showed up to our first week back of practice, said to go for a uniform, and Coach Motzko was, with the World Junior team, and I was running the practice, and he showed up, and it might have been his best week of practice, and he had every reason to not let it be his best week of practice.
Right.
And right there, that said something to me about John. I know I said it about those other two, that he shows up every day. He has seen the ups and the downs, and he's been through it, and he is going to be an absolute warrior for us.
There was something, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you see him every day, but to me there was something about his game maybe halfway through where he kind of, you saw him up in the plate, you saw him destroying people, on both ends of the ice. I'm like, whoa, and you could just see, I don't know if it was a maturation, or just saying, you know what, I gotta do something to try to help this team win. I mean, in a bigger level. We were struggling down the back half of last year, and John showed up every day. Played some big minutes too.
Played some of his best hockey.
Hard minutes.
And that's going to keep translating, and it's a credit to him. You're right. I don't really exactly know what it was, but he really turned a corner, and his attitude every day showing up at the rink was incredible, and I think that's a large part of it.
I tell people all the time, whenever you jump levels, I don't care if it's Pee Wee to Bantam to high school to junior and then into college, there's an adjustment period. I mean, you just don't, unless you're really, really elite, there's a time frame where, it takes you a while to get acclimated, get ready, and I mean, what do you see, from that perspective? Because, everyone hears this big name coming in, and the results aren't there right away. So how patient do you as coaches have to be, and what's your message to the younger guys coming in who struggle right away?
I mean, I think you got to kind of be real before they even get here, and on what you think it's going to look like, and it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, even taking my own experience into account, like my freshman year was tough.
Like it was tough. Really tough. Yeah.
It was hard. It was up and down. I don't know if I should have. I don't know if I belonged here. I didn't physically. Definitely shouldn't have been here. Like, there's different, things that play into it for every single kid. But I think if you stick through it, like John did, and actually I can speak on this a little bit because I did a version of that. Those kids usually find success, and that's why I'm still here, because I grinded through it, and he did too, and that's why he's going to be, one of our leaders. And I think we're going to get, two really solid years hopefully out of John. One for sure. Hopefully he's not too good and leaves us. But, you know what I mean? But he's earned it. That's all I can really say.
Okay. the team is pretty well set unless something changes, but pretty well set going into this year. And we look on paper and all the teams throughout college hockey, but paper is paper, and so there's still a lot of work to do as a team to bring them together. But that being said, how excited are you and the staff for what you have coming into this season?
Well, we talk about it all the time. I mean, like Lars says it. I think he said it the other day. He's like, "Have you never been so excited to play a hockey game in July?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which we all kind of are. I mean, they added we think we, got a good team.
Yep.
Or we know we do, and so we want to get going now. Like you said, there's going to be a day in January where our staff wants to beat each other up, and things probably aren't going so well, and we're going to be like, remember in July when we wanted to fire this up? But I mean, to say
You're
the
pumped.
least, I'm pumped. Yeah, I'm pumped. I'm jacked up. I'm excited. And it was, like you said, it was a long road, and I miss Bob and I miss Killer.
Yep.
And things were awesome with them for a long time, and but I'm excited to get going.
All right, we get questions from viewers that come through, so send them to Pat Mick 26 or to Gopher Men's Hockey. We could get them there. But Frank wants to know just about when the Canadian Major Juniors became available, how hard was it to transition to learn quickly about all of a sudden all these resources that became available?
It's more so about building a network, because the way you recruit down here is, you through advisors and through people and through, so it's a little bit more foreign up there. So you got to get up there, you got to get your feet wet, you got to meet people. And for us, it's a little different. We didn't really get, down that road too far with our previous staff,
right.
So we were kind of just, and then now you come in and with the new staff, and we're hard charging into it, so we're just learning things as we go. But I mean, it's going to be something that it's a part of our future. We're going to have our guys from our state are already, starting to go up there and play. Not that, we're telling them to do that, or not that we're, advising them that's the way you need to go, because, the USHL is still going to be an unbelievable league.
Yeah.
But so we're going to have to be up there, because that's where, that and the USHL are probably going to be our two main targets, and where we're looking for players throughout junior hockey.
I mean, because, with the CHL players now, I mean, every other team in the country is doing it. So you guys, I mean, you have to, don't you?
Well, I mean,
per se.
USA Hockey's, I mean, in an unbelievable spot. We all know that.
Yep.
But like some of the top kids every year are coming out of Canada.
Yeah.
The high draft picks and the kids that not necessarily equate to winning necessarily in college hockey, but that we're going to have to be in on, because we're interested in top players in the world at their age. And that's, some of them are up there playing in that league. And if they're a fit for us, great. And we're going to explore that.
All right.
But like I said, primarily, and I'm biased for just two, we will have a large Minnesota population on our team.
As you should.
As we should.
Yes.
But you see where it's going.
Hey.
You see where it's going, and we got to be in there.
All right, Joel wants to know, when did you decide coaching was for
Great.
you?
He stole my question.
You know what? I don't know. My dad was a coach.
Yep.
In my whole life, he coached me in high school. He worked a little bit in pro and blah, 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 blah down the line. But I don't know. I think I kidded myself for a while when I was getting towards the end of my playing career, like, oh, I'm going to this and going to that. And I think it was maybe even my wife who was probably just like, you're an idiot. Like, what do you think? You're not gonna like you're too like competitive. You're too high strung. You're gonna go sit in an office. Like, she's like, get a life. Like, figure it out. So, I mean, I think there was a day probably towards the end of my playing career, I was like, all right,
You're a hockey guy.
I got to figure out how to make this a part of my thing, because I can't. Yeah, I'm pretty limited. I'm pretty limited, I guess is what we'll say.
All right, so then you decided the University of Minnesota was a target, because you came here as a video coordinator, then you went to the USHL for a little bit, but then came back. What was that pitch to, was it Bob, right, that you had to convince to hire you?
Yeah.
What was that pitch like when you came back and said, hey, I'd really like to jump into this?
Hello, I played here.
Not to get too deep with it. Like, it was what I was trying to do the whole time. Once I started coaching, the reason I started coaching is I wanted to get back here because of, not to get too deep with it in the recruiting part, but like that's how important this place was for me. And I knew if I started coaching, this is where I wanted to end up, at least for a while. Give my kids a chance to be here, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I knew when Bob recruited me, he brought Rabs, who's the best man in my wedding, godfather to my son. I'm like,
really?
Absolutely.
Really?
I'm like, this is going to be a layup.
Yeah.
No. So, I mean, I think Bob will tell you, I don't even, but I think he thought me and Rabs were too similar.
Yeah.
Too young and too
and best friends and oh boy.
And
right?
I said, listen, I told Bob we are all that, but you'll see very shortly we're very, very different. And you know what? It ended up working. We had two young guys that were hungry, and I don't know if we were doing a good job. We were just getting good recruits because we looked like we wanted to win, and we were fun to be around.
Johnson,
yeah, but I mean, it wasn't hockey. We were out there giving energy, and I think the kids like that. And Rabs, I mean, we don't need to go down that road, but he's unbelievable too.
Yep.
But so.
All right. One more here for you. Scott wants to know, we've got the full schedule here that we can look at. You have a huge slot of games in November. I think it's 9 straight at home. How important is that stretch? Because you can see them all piled up there. You got North Dakota in the barn, then Penn State, then Wisconsin. Anchorage comes rolling in, and then Minnesota State. How do you break it up like a schedule like that and decide this is really going to be a spot where it could be problematic if we don't do well here? Or are you out recruiting then and saying, you guys worry about those 9-game homestand?
We had a stretch like this to start last year that remember the start last year we ran the gamut off the start. It was just BC, not North to Dakota, go recruiting on it again, but like this is why you come to Minnesota.
Yeah, to play the best.
To play the schedule. I mean, to be honest, I don't really even know what our schedule is, and if you wouldn't have put it up there, I would have had no clue. The reason is our schedule is good every year, and that's part of the reason I became a Gopher as a player, because I knew it was going to make me better. And when you're in the heart of those stretches, you're sometimes going, we might have screwed up on this schedule and this one, but no, it's why you come here, and it's what our players deserve. They deserve to play the best teams.
All right, last thing on the recruiting trail, can you tell us whose mom had like the best cookies or the best meal? Is it like old school where we'd see movies where the coach comes into the house and sits on the couch and talks with the parents? Is that still a thing in this day and age?
Yeah, I was part of that. Like Coach Lucia was in my house. Right. Usually if a coach is going into a house, it's a last ditch effort to be like, you're coming here. I'm not leaving here till you're coming. But
and he was like, no, I'm hungry.
More nowadays the way it's kind of changes. The recruiting pitches they don't end up like that. It's about, here's what we have on our campus. This is why it's a fit for you. And that was a part of it too. But that's become most of that takes place now on campus, where you can show off your resources and flex your muscles a little bit more so than the in-home visit. But that's, still happens. Yeah. And it's very important, and it needs to happen because you get on a personal level with them. But the bells and whistles are kind of where it's at right now.
Absolutely. Pat, one more before
I just want one in. I don't want to hurt his feelings or anything like that.
Well,
I think you should
tell
the people.
To this point. It's gone so well to this point.
First of all, how intimidated were you when you first played your first game in the Hibbing Memorial Arena? And then second question, did you ever win a game there?
Only a section final.
Oh, there's your comeback.
Whoa. But not against Hibbing.
No, they were already out.
All right, I should have not asked that.
You should not try to
dub that.
I'll tell you what, though, as much as I don't want to say it, Hibbing.
You walked into the arena.
The Hibbing Memorial Barn as a sophomore was intimidating.
Yeah.
I
thought you were going to say you saw my.
Well, no, I had to listen to my dad talk about you all the
time.
Thank you. That's why I hate pumping your tires.
I know. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Ben,
can be done.
thank you so much
thank
for
you
the
very
time.
much. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Sure
Awesome
glad we
stuff.
saved
Let's do it
time for
again.
that last question.
Yeah.
That was
That might
really,
be dubbed out.
really, really hard hitting. Thank you so much. Get your Gopher hockey tickets. Go there, gophersports.com. We'll be back next week. Look to Gopher Social. So if you want to ask questions of our next guest, you can fire them to us at that time. That'll do it for us. We'll see you next time.